Welcome back. So today we're going to talk about the very first steps you want to take if you're self-publishing and you're going to format your own novel. Formatting is where you take your manuscript and you place it in a condition through a typesetting program. You put it in condition that is ready for the publisher, and with most self-publishers, that is a POD press or a publish-on-demand press. Now, the publish-on-demand press that you select will have templates and instructions on how to do formatting for their press. So you'll need a copy of that from whichever entity, say you're going through Amazon, then you'll want to download their template and you'll want to read their instructions. So print off their instructions so that you have them available. The next step, the next thing you absolutely want to do. So the first thing I'm going to tell you to do is to go to your favorite art supply or online, and you're going to order Westcott AS2B. That's a leading gauge. And Westcott AS2A. That's a type and leading gauge. And you'll want to order the set. They usually come as a pair. They're usually under $10. You want to have those on hand for when you're beginning your design process. So in a traditional publishing house, you have a typesetter who is the person who actually does the work of formatting the book, and you have a designer who is the person who makes the decisions about the appearance of the book. And if you're self-publishing, you automatically are both of those people, unless you hire out what's happening. We're going to assume you're not hiring it out. So your next step is to go to your bookcase if you have a substantial number of hardcover books. If you don't, then you'll be going to a library, you'll be going to bookstores, you'll be going to a used book store. But basically you want to get a couple samples of hardcovers. And you are looking for books that were published in the last 20 years. And what you're really looking for is your favorite style of book. Now, this isn't the content of the book. It's not your favorite story. It's your favorite way the book was built. It's a construction idea. So you want to pull out 4 or 5 of these. You'll want to go through them and pick out what you like about each one. If you have a specific favorite, you want to pull that hardcover. The hardcover is the best version of almost all books that are printed. Some books do come out with special editions later that are a level up from the standard hardcover, but for most books, the hardcover version of the book is the best book. So today I have this on my table over there, so it's easy access, and it's a hardcover, and we looked at it before in another video, and it's been done by a major publisher. So we'll look at, see if this, I think it was Random House maybe, let me look. So William Morrow book. But it was designed. So this one had a designer. And so this was made by HarperCollins. So this is a traditional publisher, which is what you want when you're looking at these books. It had a designer, which means that somebody was brought in with that title to specifically design the layout of the book. The construction of it, the types, all that kind of stuff. So this one did have that. It was designed by Bonnie Leon Berman. So a designer is not the general typesetter. Some traditional publishing houses rely almost entirely on sort of pre-chosen selections of fonts and things like that that they use on most of their general run fiction books. So if a book is pulled out, which this one was, for extra attention, then a designer is used and they go off script a little bit. So you'll need to have, like I said, you want to find a book that's fairly recent, that you really like the appearance of, how it feels to you, how it looks to you, the kind of choices that were made. And you're going to start off by identifying what they did. So a good place to start for this is you're going to start with the overall size. So you'll have a ruler, and this one comes in at 5 3/4. I'm using finished size 5 3/4 by 8 1/2. So you would write down finished sized 5 3/4 by 8 1/2. Go, 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 go. So many ants. All right. And so you're going to start with that. So I'm getting ready to open Affinity, which is the typesetting program I'm using for the Bug Mage, and I'm getting ready to format it. So that's one of the next videos coming up. Will be walking you through the beginning steps of using Affinity as a type of typesetter program to design your book. And so these are the steps that I'm taking before I open that program on my computer to reach the point where I have answers for that program. Because one of the very first things you do in any of these typesetting programs is you decide the size of your book, and you're making that selection first. So size of the book is chosen. And so the next question that you're going to have, or that I'm going to tell you to look for, is you're going to go to your page, pick a page. This is a chapter header. You will notice that the chapter header is on a facing page. It's on an odd number page. So all of your chapters on well-designed books are going to be on odd number pages. And this is so when the reader opens the book, it's front and center. They're not looking at the back of another page. They're looking at the front of the leading page. And so you want to try to adhere to that in your book so that all of your leading pages for every chapter are starting on a facing page, which is the odd number pages. You'll notice on this design, there is no page number on this page. On the back side of the page number is shown to be at the top. You'll also notice there's no header. Wow, I'm just being assaulted here. There is no header on these pages because, again, the designer decided no header. So the header appears on an end page on both sides. Even though it's a leading page, it's a 9. Even though it's a leading page, it's the end of a chapter. And they have used headers on both sides and page numbers. So that's a design choice that you're going to be making for your own book. So in this case, you're looking at a starting page, and you'll want to identify the size of the type. So you're going to find hopefully a boxy type. Here's an E with Elfie. And we're going to use our type gauge and go right over the top of it. Your gauge is transparent. So this looks like it could be a 10 or it could be a 10 1/2. And so you're going to make a decision between 10 and 10.5 font. Now you're going to notice that the font is a serif. Now you may not be able to identify the font, but you'll want to look for a font that is designed for running text. Some fonts will identify that way, but you can look up your fonts to see if they're a running text font. So you'll want a running text. Now, people use serif fonts because it's easier for the eye to read the font in a font that is non-serif. So these are non-serif font samples. They don't have the tails that you see in a serif font. So the extra tails give more information to the reader's brain. So you want to start knowing that you're going to be looking for a serif running font for your text. And then you may, if you really, really love this particular book and the style, and you like what the designer did, you can look up and identify the font. That's an extra step. It's a little bit more difficult, but you can do that, and you can replicate the font. Now remember, you're going to pay to use fonts unless they're released into the public for free. And you'll want to verify that in your decision-making process. So you're going to select a font, it's going to be a serif, and it's going to be a running text. The next thing you're going to look at, and we said it's going to be between 10 and 10.5 font size to match what they've done here. Now we're going to look for the spacing between the lines. That spacing is called leading, and you're going to take your type gauge, point size, and you're going to start at 10. So it's never going to be smaller than your font size. It's usually 2 points higher or 3 points higher than your point size. So we're going to start at 11. Let's start at 11, and I'm going to lay this font gauge down so that the line is at the bottom of the letter. Then I'm going to go down to the next line, and as you can see, it's not an 11 because it did not land at the bottom of a letter. So I'm going to go up 2, and it's still not landing on the bottom of the letter, but it's close. So I'll go up to a 15, and it looks like it's a 15. So as you notice, I've got the bottom of the letter here, bottom of the letter here, 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 here. So we know that this book was written on 10 or 10.5 font at 15-point leading. Okay, so that tells you what they did to achieve this appearance. You'll also notice that the designer made the decision. Ugh, so many ants. Yikes. I should have cleaned my table, but I didn't. Anyway, so you get to suffer with my ants. Anyway, so I live in a desert. I live on top of the New York City of ants. And so I'm in a constant war during ant season to preserve my autonomy with my ant population. I limit how many I kill, but I discourage them, put it that way. So the next thing you want to do after you know your font size and your leading size, your program is going to give you the width of your text block based on the size you have told the program you are going to use for the finished print. So based on putting in 5 3/4 by 8.5, your program is going to give you the text block margins. So those margins are already kind of preset for you. So the next thing you want to look at in this example is that the designer chose to include hyphenation. This is to prevent sort of the gaps in the teeth problem that I talked about in another video. It is to make the spacing between your words the best reading spacing possible. within sort of the budget constraints of this kind of book. So you are going to make the decision. We're going to say yes to hyphenation. And typically the program will let you look at each example of hyphenation and choose yes or no on the spot. You will also notice there is a drop cap at the very beginning. They have chosen a fairly large drop cap. Let's go back to our font gauge, see if we can pick it up. It looks like it's a 54-point drop cap. And we'll go to your chapter number. And again, we're using the same tool. As you can see, it's a very useful tool. And typically the two tools cost less than $10. So, and Blick Art Supply has them. Many places have them. So the chapter number is an 18-point. Chapter number. And then if we go, let's go to an inside page. We're going to look at the header, and we're going to check the size on that. And the header is typically going to be smaller than your running text. I'm going to say this is an 8.5. So we're going to say 8.5 point header. And check your page number and see if it's running in the same, and it looks about the same. So page number. So that gives you the font choices that the designer made for your typical inside story, your text blocks, your header, and your choices around no page number on chapter pages. So those are the decisions that this designer made for this book. So this kind of basic information about the book is where you start when you're considering to do your own formatting for self-publishing. At the end of doing this basic stuff, you're going to come back and do your front matter. Now, front matter is more challenging and asks you more questions. And when I do the front matter video for Affinity, I will walk you through how you want to be looking at your front matter and the decisions you want to be making to make it look correct. You're trying for a novel that looks correct, feels correct, reads correct for your reader. You don't want the construction of your finished novel to stand out in any way that will bounce a reader out of reading it. You want the reader to feel confident that it was made correctly, designed correctly, is of good value, and will hold up over time. That's kind of the message you're trying to send here. So you're trying to fit in with the top of the industry, current construction thoughts and work. You want your work to look and feel appropriate for the cash that the reader is spending to achieve it, to buy it. So we'll come back to look at the front matter choices. We'll come back to look at the cover choices and doing the panels for your cover, and how you'll want to follow through with some of these similar techniques for each of these decisions that you're going to be making on constructing your novel. So this video is simply about getting your basic text blocks under control and your design choices for the inside of your book. And if you will notice if you're using something like the Amazon template that they offer for your book size, you will notice that your choices on removing page numbers and creating the exact look you want are simply not there. So a good designer is going to use a tool designed for book formatting in order to format a book. And right now, Affinity is very, very similar to InDesign, which is kind of top of the food chain. But it's a one-time purchase, and it's less expensive, and it does the same work. So I'll be doing the Bug Mage for you in Affinity and walk you through step by step how you apply this information in that program so that you understand what you're doing and can achieve your goal, which is to produce the best quality book that you possibly can. If a hardcover is not within your range of production, then this would be a paperback. But your paperback in this case should mimic the same kind of choice decisions that the hardcover has, because your paperback by default becomes the prime best built book of your particular novel. So it has to duplicate what happens in a hardcover in the paperback format. So you're not going to look to a paperback for an example here. You're going to look to the hardcover. So I'm going to make the decision based on producing a hardcover of the Bug Mage first, and then replicating it in paperback. I'll use a very similar format or the identical format for paperback, in my case, because that's the level of quality I want to produce. I'm not producing this book as an ebook or as mass market, so I'm not going down because the Bug Mage is full of art. So shrinking it doesn't make sense, and an ebook would not place the art in the right positions or make it handle properly. So these are the beginning decisions you're making when you're choosing to become the typesetter and designer for your novel, for your self-published novel, and why you want to make the decisions you're making and why you want to pay attention to the details. Everything in book construction is about the details of the book. So that's it for this video, and I'll be back with you working on the Affinity program shortly.